Kindra is the President and Chief Storytelling Officer at Steller Collective, a consulting firm focused on the strategic application of storytelling to today's communication challenges. Other parts here, she inspires teams and individuals to better communicate the value of their company, their products, and their individuality through strategic storytelling. And that's kind of an interesting term, strategic storytelling. Now, I had a chance to see Kindra and actually get to meet her a number of months ago. She and I were speaking at the same event. It was an event out in Texas for the industry, and she was the MC for the event, but she also gave one of the keynote addresses. And I thought, wow, I learned so much about storytelling. And as you know, we're all storytellers in this industry. And interestingly enough, on her background, says here she was a national champion storyteller, which I didn't even know that existed, but that is that's incredible. And I think many of our leaders out there are probably national champions too at storytelling. But she's a member of the board of directors of the National Storytelling Network and has her master's degree in communications, where she conducted original research studying the role of storytelling in defining and revealing organizational culture. You can find a lot of her work out on Inc., Entrepreneur, Success Magazine, and she's got a book that she's going to be coming out with in the fall of this year. Looking forward to that. Kindra lives in Manhattan, and she lives out there with her husband and young son and daughter. So with that, Kindra, welcome. We're glad to have you on our Influencer series today.
Oh, thank you so much, Darren. I am so excited to be here today.
Well, it's good to have you here, and it was good to see you a few months ago and get to know you. And you know, back then I just hadn't really, well, I mean, I always think about the power of storytelling because that's such a big part of what we do. But I think what you shared with us at that event was just powerful. I mean, it made me really begin to think of it as it says here, strategic storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I think as humans, we're storytelling creatures, right? We learn through stories. When we're children, we share stories with our friends. But when it comes to business, and particularly a network marketing business, there's one thing to be telling stories, and there's another thing to really realize the power your stories have, what stories you should be telling, what stories you can be telling, and really what those stories can do for you, your personal brand, your business, growing your team. There's a lot there, but to be very intentional about it. And that's important to me to be able to share with you. So I'm glad you picked up on that.
So what do you, for those that are watching, I know that one of their questions is, okay, so how did Kindra get involved in strategic storytelling? Because it is such, I mean, it's such a different thing to get involved in. Kind of walk us through how you got to where you're at today, just so we understand your background and what makes you tick.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that question because it does. It sounds made up, right? Like it's a made up job, and it is. It was one of those things that, you know, I think sometimes you find a career, and sometimes a career finds you, and if you have enough courage and enough support from friends and family and enough belief in yourself, you go for it. So my story about storytelling starts many, many years ago. I told my first story when I was 11 and I was in 5th grade. Now I'm going to save that part of this story until we're together in Long Beach, because I was thinking about it. I want to share that whole story with you there. But then that experience really led me to be on the speech team in high school. Yes, I was very popular, just like all of the speech.
Okay, so I was the president of the debate class,
hey.
Or the debate club. So I don't know, was speech part of debate, or was it a different team, or what was it?
It's a different team.
Okay.
So debate, you're debating, but on the speech team, I was telling stories competitively. So every year at the beginning of the season, we would get a big book of stories, and they would give us 15 that we had to learn. And then you learn these 15 stories. They have to be 6 minutes long each. And then you go into rooms and tell the stories in front of judges and other competitors. So it wasn't strategic storytelling, but it was definitely competitive storytelling.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And so then it was there that I entered a national storytelling competition, which I know not many people know that they have those, and I won. And then the grand prize, I was hoping it was like a new car or a college scholarship because I was just graduating high school, but it wasn't. The grand prize was you got to tell a story at the National Storytelling Festival. And I know you may or may not know they have one of those, but it's this big event that happens the first weekend in October. I think it's happening at the same time as the event in Long Beach. So I won't be at the festival this year. I'll be with you, and I'm so excited. But where they bring in storytellers who tell stories on stages under big circus tents for thousands of people. And it was there, I remember I went with my mom, and we sat under this circus tent on chairs that are like half the size of a normal chair. And I watched these master storytellers just tell stories. And they weren't doing it for marketing. They weren't doing it for sales. They were just sharing the story of the human experience. And I watched all the people around me, and no matter their age, no matter their background, these storytellers could hold these people in the palm of their hands. And I remember as we were leaving that event, we were in one of those like minivan shuttles. Me and my mom headed back to the airport. And she looked at me and she said, you know, Kindra, this is something you're really good at. As you know, moms can see those things in their kids. But of course I was a teenager, and I rolled my eyes at her and I said, well, what? I'm going to tell stories for the rest of my life. And I kind of laughed at her and I left it alone. But over time, you know, I went to college. I found myself continuously wanting to know more about the role of storytelling. So I did an independent study project on storytelling in hospitals. And then for my master's degree, I did my thesis was on the role of storytelling in building cultures, which I'm sure you in network marketing, you know, part of it is certainly sales, but part of it is cultivating a supportive culture and raising leaders underneath you, and how important stories are in guiding and shaping future leaders. And then I went into sales and marketing, and I thought, okay, so now I'm done with this storytelling stuff. It was just a hobby. It was like a party trick. I continue to go to storytelling festivals, but I never thought of that as a career. Like, who does that? But in my sales job, I realized when I was my best was when I was telling stories. When my team was their best was when they were not focusing on the products, but rather the stories of what the products could do for people. So I left that job, and I had 2 kids. Like I quit my job, and then a week later we found out we were pregnant, which there you go. And suddenly I was raising 2 kids, a stay-at-home mom, and helping other business leaders, thought leaders shape their stories, and then decided maybe I needed to teach this on a bigger scale. And so now this is what I do. I get to speak for companies all across industries, a lot of network marketing, because it's true. You are national champion storytellers. The best people in this business are the ones who believe in and aren't afraid to share their stories, and that's a piece of it.
Well, I know that you write. You're writing a book,
Yeah.
and also I know that you also do training for that. That you have tools available. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So you know, it's kind of once you find that calling, it's and I'm sure many of you feel that way, right? You feel called to be here, and then you just want to get this message out. When you figure out that when you discover that you've discovered something, for me it's storytelling that everybody needs to hear about, you just want to tell more people. So I wrote a book. It's called Stories That Stick: How Storytelling Can Captivate Customers, Influence Audiences, and Transform Your Business. The book comes out September 24th. But the good news is it's in pre-order right now. So you can pre-order it online. Now, that's one aspect of it. But the second aspect of it is, I told you I work a lot in network marketing, and I feel like there are nuances to storytelling that require a little bit more training. So I developed an online training specifically for the network marketing audience. So actually, I'll just put this out here. Maybe the team can put the link in the comments. If you go online to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Target, it's at Target. Be careful if you go to Target. You'll end up spending way more than you intended to, right? But if you pre-order stories that stick online now, go to this link that they'll put in the comments, and I'll send you that training for free.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. I know that
$40 value for pre-ordering the book, and then bring the book to Long Beach when you get it, and I'll sign it for you.
Okay. Well, awesome. So everybody pre-order your book, and also make sure that the link that we're going to post here in the comments section, make sure that you click on that link so you can get the free training.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. Well, thank you, Kindra, for that gift. We appreciate that.
You can tell I get very excited about it. I'm like sweating here as I'm sitting here.
Well, one other question that I'd have for you. Okay, so people also in this industry, they need to know what, as I said, kind of what makes you tick, what drives you, what is your why? So if I were to pose that question to you, what is your why?
I think that question, right? Like, it's a big part of this business. I think that question sometimes is harder than it seems. And for me, I think I have several whys. And one of them I just don't really understand, actually. It's like, I just feel like this is what I'm here to do, to tell you that your story matters and that it has a place in business. So that's an important part of my why. It's the part that seems like I can't really touch. I can't really put my finger on it. The other part of my why taps into that. And, like for example, the other day I was speaking at an event for people who are really passionate about what they do. It was for a nonprofit organization, and it's a passion of it's a business of love. It isn't, you're not going to make any money doing what they do. And this woman came up to me afterwards, and she was a young woman, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I've always said that I love working with older people. That's part of her volunteer role, and helping them continue to see the value in their life and to thrive. And I never really understood why. And now I understand that this passion stems from my grandmother and the time I spent with her and the story she shared with me and the love and respect that she gave me. And she's not here anymore, but I want to pass that on to the generation that went before me as a thank you. And she said, I never realized that was my why story. And so for me, part of my why is helping others through what I teach and through the systems that I'll be sharing in Long Beach to help you really tap into those moments that illustrate your why. And for me, that was one of them, this young woman coming up to me with tears in her eyes for what she learned for herself. And then the third why, of course, is for myself and for my family. And my kids now are 8. I have an 8-year-old boy and an almost 7-year-old girl. And it's really exciting to watch them watch me, because this isn't any time you're going after something big, and it's kind of off the beaten path. Like, my friends are nurses and teachers and accountants and very straightforward. They have very straightforward careers, and my career is a lot of things, but straightforward is not one of them. And I'm sure it like goes up and down, and on a day-to-day basis I can be like, oh, this is amazing, and oh, this is so hard. But to see my kids see all of that, I know that I'm teaching them through the way I'm living my life to dream bigger. And that's really important. That's really important to me too. Another piece of my why.
I like those whys. And the last one that you were talking about of dreaming bigger, I see that so much in the industry, of where the leaders are trying to bring people in and help them broaden their dreams, because sometimes people dream really small and people have so much potential in them. And if they could dream bigger, you never know what people can accomplish. So I like that why of
Well,
dreaming bigger.
and I think that is like one of the great honors and one of the great responsibilities of being in this industry and being a leader in LifeVantage is that's your job. You'll have people join your team and they may stay for a day, a month, a decade, but even if it's just for one day, which it never is because you're amazing and they're going to want to stay forever, but they will leave changed. Like they will leave seeing themselves differently, because you can't be in this business without having your mind and the possibilities for you expand. So I love what you do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about maybe, we've talked about storytelling, and that in direct selling, storytelling is such a powerful tool that we have. Can you give us a few do's and don'ts? I know that you're going to be covering this a lot more in your talk at Long Beach, but maybe give us a few ideas of do's and don'ts for our stories.
Yeah, no, and exactly. We'll be talking about this when we're together, but a few is one do is to tell. Don't be afraid to tell small stories, and this is particularly now with social media. I mean, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Lives, you have IG, you have so many options and places to be telling your stories. So don't be afraid to do. Did I say this was a do or a don't? So it kind of goes together, okay?
You can do do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts at the same time, but do tell the small stories, like the little moments throughout your day. And here's something that may be counterintuitive, but they don't always have to deal directly with your business. They don't always have to tie out to a product. They don't have to tie out to the opportunity. Remember, people, when they're joining your teams, when they're considering becoming a new customer of yours, they're buying you. So they want to know you as a person. They want to know the funny thing that happened to you this morning, or the interesting comment you overheard at your kid's baseball game. They want to know all of those small moments of your life, because it gives them an opportunity to connect with you on a deeper level. So that's one thing, to share those small moments. And kind of a cousin to that then is, for no reason do you have to feel like the only time you should be telling a story is if it's going to make people cry, or if it's really dramatic, or that it has to do with some life-changing results. Now, I'm sure you have those stories, and you may have many of them, but sometimes the simple stories go a long way too. As far as a don't, I mean, I guess I'm not really a don't person unless it's like in a positive way. The big don't, I would say, is don't forget, and this is where a strategic story comes in, don't forget who you're telling the story for. Don't forget why you're telling the story. Don't forget that when you're sharing your stories, yes, it's for you, but it's actually for their benefit. Your audience, the people who already know you and are already a part of what you're doing, or the people who are kind of watching on the sidelines and wondering if maybe they should get involved. Remember that strategic storytelling, when you're telling your stories, they can be about you, but also make it so it kind of sounds like them. Don't forget that they're wanting to listen to it, saying, that sounds like me. I've been there before. Oh yeah, I can relate to that. So there are a few do's and don'ts. We'll get more specific about this aspect of it, the strategy of strategic storytelling together in Long Beach.
Wonderful. I was thinking, as you're saying don'ts, you're like, well, I don't know about the don'ts. All of a sudden it popped into my mind, and it probably makes no sense. Thou shalt not be boring.
Yes. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
And people will ask, like, how long should I go? How long should my story be? It depends on how much time you have.
Yeah.
You know, if you're supposed to be giving a 30-second testimonial, then your story needs to be 30 seconds. If you have 5 minutes for someone to hear your story, then it can be 5 minutes.
Well, those were good. Those are great examples. I was over here taking notes very quickly. I mean,
Good. You're a good student, Darren.
well, keeping those stories simple and really capturing the small moments. And I like that because people, I think, relate to the small moments. Like you're saying, if you only tell dramatic stories or stories that are so over the top that nobody can relate to, or
Exactly.
people will feel uncomfortable about sharing with you because they don't have as dramatic of a story to tell. You know?
Well, and I think that is a part of your job here is not only to be a storyteller, but to create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their stories with you and then sharing them as they, you know, as they grow, sharing them outwardly. But yeah, if every time you're telling a story that seems untouchable, they won't, it'll feel intimidating. And I'll tell you on my Instagram feed, the stories that get the most engagement are the really simple moments in life, the little things that I saw, like, oh, or the small things that, you know, my husband said to me, or something, you know, something funny, something sweet that my kids did. Now, it's cool if you can tie it out to a bigger meaning. So for example, I posted a story about, I had there was a big event at my son's school, and I've been waiting all year to go to this event. Now, my job as a keynote speaker, right, is people come and say, can you come speak for us on this date? And somebody wanted me to come and speak on that date. Now, I'm saying no to income. Like that's important. That's part of how we keep the lights on and, keep my teeth brushed or whatever it is. And so, but I said no because I wanted to be here for this event. So I told my son later, I said, hey, Arn, do you know that Mama said no to a speaking event because this event here at the school was so important to me. I just wanted to be here with you so badly. And my son said, well, the panorama night at school is cool, Mama, but we could do some things with that money. Like he was very, and it was just this, okay, so that was a funny conversation. It was, just one of those things that kids say. But the bigger message was, how cool is it that we're creating this environment where he loves the dream and the work and sees the value of it as much as I do. And I'll tell you, that story we posted with a picture that was my son and I walking down the street with our backs. Like, it wasn't a particularly beautiful picture, right? Because I know on social media that a lot has to do with the visuals. It wasn't even a particularly great picture, but people tuned in because of the story.
Well, that's a great story. Well, Kindra, so you're a professional storyteller, and we're already probably well over time, but you're just very interesting to speak with. So one final thing. I know we've talked a lot about what you're going to be sharing with us at Long Beach, but if you were to kind of summarize what exactly you're going to cover and maybe the skill sets that you're hoping to instill in our team members there, what is it?
Yeah, great. Well, it really breaks down, our time together will break down into 3 parts. So the first part, even though I know that I'll be preaching to the choir, that you already know that you are storytellers, there will come moments in your work, in what you're doing, when you'll have a choice to tell a story or not tell a story. And I want you to, without a doubt, default to telling a story. So the first part of what we'll be doing is really building the case for why storytelling works so well. How does it address some of the biggest challenges you have in this work, that you have in this industry? So we'll start there. Then we move into a clarification of what a story really is, because one of the big problems, one of the big missed opportunities is we think we're telling stories, but we're not. So we miss it. So I have a great case study to show you so you can really see and feel the difference. And then lastly, for the for the education part of it. I mean, it's all education, but I want to get really specific because this is the work that I do. It's not just, oh, storytelling is so great and I tell lots of stories. I want to equip people to be able to access their stories. So I'm going to break down into very, very specific, time-tested, proven strategies for finding stories, because that's where a lot of us get stuck, right? We don't even know what story to tell. We don't even know what our story is. We don't think we have one. We're going to solve that problem. Then I want to give you a really simple framework for crafting stories so you don't feel like you have to become the next great American novelist. And then lastly, some specific places, strategies, and ideas for telling them. So you'll get the full arc, and by the end of it, you're going to walk out ready with stories to share, which that's my favorite part.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. It looks like that's going to be an incredible keynote address. And Kindra, thank you for joining us today on our Influencer series.